Cool. Style.
Alles einstellen.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it going on?
Mora.
Where's the little thing you got? Where is there? That's all there. Not two.
It's here.
All there. Yep.
Znam da ovdje je here. Rekla sam
Tu je.
tu je. Ja, here.
It would indicate closer to me. When you say ovdje, it's indicating that it's closer to you.
Okay.
You want me to click this guy on too?
Yes, please.
Blah. Blah. Love you. Good luck, you're gonna rock it.
Durr.
Durr. Ooh, wow. All right.
Shush. All right. What's up? What's up? We'll get started in just 2. All right, all right. Just do one thing while I'm in here. All right. If you
don't have a block, then you can grab a book or something. Even like a water bottle would be a good option for something, just to kind of make the ground a little closer if you ever need it, or act like a little wedge. What can also work is like a rolled up towel or a pillow that you kind of roll up a little bit. So all of those things can work. We're gonna take some time to slow it down and kind of relax into our evening. So let's go ahead and get started. Happy you're all here. I'm happy to be here with you virtually. So today we're gonna roll through a yin practice and just take a little time to open up and slow down, and hopefully a little bit of space to relax. You know, we're going into another month of quarantine, and it's starting to feel even more real. And I don't know about any of you, but there's been more stress that has arisen, or has risen up. And so I think that taking a few moments, you know, like 1 hour to really slow down and check in and kind of put our heads back on a little bit, because sometimes the weight of everything going on around us can really start to feel a lot bigger. And it's one of the things I appreciate about our yoga practice so much, is the ability to kind of slow down long enough to catch your own breath and reset your head if that's what's necessary, or just to feel your body and take the time. So do yourself the service of taking the time. Put on something that is calming, put on some music that is, you know, calming. If it feels good or you feel drawn to, you can light a couple of candles or do a little bit of incense or something, and just really set the stage for how you want to feel. Because a lot of that is a choice, and you can kind of really facilitate what you want out of the next hour or so. So let's go ahead and just begin at the back of our mats, and we'll start kneeling, and just for a few moments we'll breathe. Let's just take these few moments at the beginning of our practice to notice consciously how we breathe and what that feels like in our bodies. So sit up nice and tall, relax your shoulders. And just start to pay attention to the length of your breath. For just the first few, notice if your inhalation or your exhalation is longer or fuller than the other. Just take note for a moment. A couple more breaths. And then on these next few breaths, see if you can match the length of your inhalation and your exhalation. And then slowly begin to release any tension you might have on your breath, and hold this kind of awareness as you move throughout your practice this evening, to really check in and take note of the quality of your breath as you move. So on your next exhale, slowly fold yourself forward into a child's pose position. Your knees can stay either close together, or if it feels more comfortable, you can bring your knees wide and let your chest sink low, reach your fingertips forward. If you have a book or a block, you can always place that underneath your forehead to make the ground a little bit closer. So Once you settle into that sweet spot, you can play with the, width of your legs, and then take a few moments to fold forward and come back to your breath. The teacher that would remind us that the qualities of our breath are very similar to the qualities that are happening in our minds. And so see if you can use your breath to create the quality of mind that you want. If the mind is rapid and whirling, the breath often replicates that, or vice versa. And so use your breath as a tool to start to slow you down, bring you into a state of calm and relaxation. Then take a big breath in, reach your fingertips forward. On your exhale, walk your hands off towards the right side of your mat. Just find a little bit of space down the left side of your body. And so if you'd like, you can walk your left hand all the way over onto your right if you're looking for a really full sensation of stretch. But if you're looking for a little bit less, then you can just let the left hand kind of relax towards the floor. Come back to your breath and come back to noticing your body. Really get interested in the sensations that show up as you start to place yourself in different and new shapes. Settle in and relax. And just one final minute here. So if you can let yourself relax a little deeper, notice your hips sink towards your heels. Maybe even dive a little deeper into your stretch, walking your hand a little further towards the right. Inhale as you slowly come back through center. On your exhale, walk yourself all the way towards your left. Same kind of thing on this side. You can keep your right hand right next to the left. You can walk it all the way on top. You can add more intensity. You can add less intensity. So take what you need and allow yourself to dive in for these next couple of minutes. And then slowly on your breath in, slowly walk your hands through center. Stay for one last exhalation. And inhale, press yourself forward into a tabletop position. Take your time, no rush. Plant your palms underneath your shoulders, your hips over your knees. Take a nice big breath in, just sit as comfortably as possible. We're gonna set up for a lunge. So left knee is down, and if the surface that is underneath you is a little firm, you may wanna roll like up your mat or roll up a towel or put a little cushion kind of underneath your knee if it is sensitive. We'll be here for a while, so might want a little love eventually. So take what you need. I'm gonna roll up my mat a little bit because my mat is extra thin here. And then we're gonna stand all the way up. So slide your right heel forward as far as you can and let your hips sink nice and low, and then roll your shoulders back so the shoulders come over your hips. You can place your hands on your thigh, or if you have a block and you want to place your hand kind of on a block, you're welcome to do something like that as well. We're going to stay a little higher for this one. And so let your hips sink nice and low. If you need to slide your left knee back or slide your right leg forward, and see if when you come into this first shape that you come into a place that you feel like you can hold for a pretty extended period of time. We're going to be here for a little while, and so that means that the longer you're there, the more your body will start to open, the more space that you'll create, and gravity is going to do a lot of the work for you here. So if you need to readjust, but part of the goal of yin is really staying in some of those uncomfortable spots for, let's say, a little longer than maybe we'd like to sometimes. It's another way that the yoga teaches us to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. So we'll be here for a few more moments, couple more minutes. Notice the quality of your breath. Notice the length of your breath. The calmer you keep your breath, the calmer you'll keep your mind. And the calmer your mind, the more your body will start to open and release. This stretch really opening up through your hip flexors, relieving some tension through your low back. Okay, lots of space through your psoas. It's an important muscle group to get open. We're here for about 30 more seconds. Do your best to finish, to stay. Okay, nice and slow. You can work your fingertips towards the floor, really take your time, right? And start to push your hips back. So you can take just a moment to kind of counter that out a little bit, push your hips back. That'll release through your hamstrings, a little half split action. And then we're just gonna switch sides. So you can take your right foot back underneath you into that tabletop position again. If you need that little cushion, switch it over underneath the right knee this time, and then take your left foot forward. So again, wiggle, right? Like, don't be afraid to kind of wiggle into the space for this one, especially since we're going to be here for so long. So make sure the toes are pretty far out in front of your left knee this time, and this will just keep any unnecessary pressure out of your knee. Take your moment to kind of adjust, make sure your knees and feet are still about that kind of hip width distance apart. Nice few breaths and settle into your position. So stay for as long as you can. You're using gravity as your friend here to create some space and open up what you need. Each side's going to be a little different. Coming back to the length of your breath. We're here for about one final minute. Be okay with it being a little uncomfortable or a little bit achy. If you have your block or a book and you want to place it underneath your hand, give yourself that moment. Right? Because you can use it to kind of throttle off some of the intensity. The longer you're here, the more gravity, I don't know, it feels like it kind of starts to work harder. And so you can always use a little something to kind of throttle that intensity a little. Strong, steady breaths. You have about 30 seconds left. It's one of these main spots that gets really tight and snug in the body, especially when we're sitting for really long periods of time. So moments like this, while they can be rather intense, the benefit on the other side is just incredible. Just a few more breaths here. Lengthen them out, one more. And then nice and slow, start to back your way out. Take your time. No rush. Give yourself a little counter, a little moment in half splits to release some of that tension, release some of the space that you created. And then nice and slow, you'll step your left foot back into your table. If you need to readjust your mat, take a moment to do that. And then we're gonna simply walk forward and slide onto our bellies. So we're gonna set up for Sphinx. So nice and slow, you'll settle forward onto your belly. Get your elbows to stack underneath your shoulders and your legs to open up wide. Pull your elbows in towards your pelvic bones and puff your chest a little bit forward, look forward. Just some gentle compression in your low back. So take a few moments here. Just gently placing the low back under a little bit of compression. Right, again, just focusing on reversing some of this repetitive movement that we're in right now. A lot of rounding, a lot of sitting, and we're just trying to work a little bit of that up and out of the body. Just a few more full breaths here. Notice if you really start to drop your gaze, keep it a little bit lifted for just a little bit longer. Just kind of notice the way your body starts to wake up, that maybe intense or not super intense sensation that kind of rolls down through the shoulder blades and scapula. And we're going to take it for just a moment, one step deeper into seal. So plant your palms exactly where they're at in your Sphinx, and you'll push into the floor and press your chest away. So we won't be here for quite as long as we held Sphinx, but just a few moments to compress your low back, look forward. Big steady breaths. If this compression ever starts to feel like more than your body is saying yes to, you simply come back to your Sphinx, right? More compression isn't always better. Less compression isn't always better. You know what's better for your body. We'll hold for just 5 more breaths. 5, 4, 3, 2, and then slowly release. Slide your hands underneath your shoulders and press yourself all the way back to your child's pose. Just a moment to reset, release a little bit of that compression you just placed in your low back. Big breath in, big breath out. Inhale yourself to tabletop, and we'll take just a few cat-cows here to kind of rinse that out. So on your cow, drop your belly, tip your tailbone up, look up. Exhale, cat, tuck your chin, round your shoulders, look for your belly button. Inhale, cow, belly down, tailbone up, look up. Exhale, tuck and round to find cat. Do a couple more here on your own. Add any little extra sways, little bits of extra movement. And then inhale yourself to neutral, and we'll set up for pigeon. So you'll just slide your right knee forward, and then your right heel and shin come on a diagonal. So slide yourself a little bit forward. So the heel in closer towards you will make this stretch a little less intense. So if your hips tend to be really tight, this is gonna be your jam. Get the shin, really close to the thigh, and then you'll fold. So you're looking for a nice achy stretch in your hip, and you can take the knee off the line, meaning you can slide it out towards the right a little bit in this case, and then give yourself the opportunity to square your hips towards the top of your mat. So once you've taken that moment to kind of wiggle into your perfect position, take a moment to fold forward over your right shin. Now there's just one more layer that you can add here, and if you feel like you're kind of really rolling off towards the left, where you're almost sitting on your left thigh or hip, you can take a block or a book or a pillow or whatever you may have around you and press yourself over towards the left and swedge that little something underneath your right hip so you can get your hips more parallel to the floor. This way you get a little more even stretch, and you'll allow yourself to open up a little bit more space in those kind of snug areas. Let's jump back in. Relax your breath. Maybe even close your eyes. If it feels good, you can lay all the way down into like a sleeping swan. Here for just a little while longer. Keep noticing the quality of your breath. Notice also the quality of sensation. See if you can really deep dive into the way your body feels. Get a little interested. Maybe even mesmerized. Yourself from right to left. And then take your left knee on the outside of your left wrist, shin down, and then right knee down and slide back. So again, you can bring your heel in really close, and this will take some of that intensity off for you. Sometimes that will make you also sit on your heel, and that's not ideal. So as your hips start to open, that will become more apparent. So if you're sitting on your heel, just kind of wiggle it out of the way. And then, once you kind of find your shape, sometimes it takes a couple of moments, a few little wiggles and readjustments. Make sure your foot is in line with your hip. Hips are pretty square towards the mat. And then sink forward when you're ready. Do your best to close your eyes. Do your best to, even while you're kind of slow, and still really stay in the four corners of your mat, meaning still really stay here. Right? Try not to plan for anything else just yet. Let all that stuff stay out there. Start to be aware of what thoughts show up for you. Memories or things. Maybe something you haven't thought about in a long time. Sometimes when we spend an extended period of time in a body space, stuff starts to come up because we're humans and we store memories and emotions and feelings. And the practice helps us draw that stuff to the surface, up and out, to make room for more of what we want, hopefully. few more breaths here. And from here, you'll just gently roll off towards your left and bring your right foot around and forward. Take your time, open up your feet wide, setting up for a straddle. So from here, you'll just take a moment to fold yourself forward. If you feel like you're really tucked under and round from here, you can take your block and lift up your hips and sit on your block and then fold yourself forward. Or you can use that kind of rolled up towel or pillow or anything like that. But once you've kind of settled into your spot, take a moment to fold yourself forward. You might stay up on your hands, you might come down to your forearms, you might come all the way down, anywhere in between, but start to kind of do your last few wiggles and readjustments and then settle into your shape. The longer you're here, the more your shape will evolve. So really just be patient with yourself. Your body's gonna open up, I promise. You just gotta keep showing up the way you are, do your best, and the yoga's gonna do the rest. It really, really will. See one side that's more or less full of energy or more or less full of space. Sometimes we get into this habit of judging things, whether they're good or they're bad. Oftentimes they just really are. It just is the way your body feels right now, or just is the state of whatever. And from that place of letting go of judgment, we can actually get a little clearer so that we can just use this information as what it is, as information to take you where you want to go. Let go of judgment. There is enough out there. Let go of criticism. Let your body unfold the way it will. In your last 2 minutes here. It's in your last 30 seconds. All right, gently, gently, slowly, slowly start to back your way out. Come sitting all the way up. And then take your hands underneath your knees. Bend at your knees deeply. And slowly bring your knees into your chest. From here, give yourself a little hug. And you can let your head be caught by your knees for just a moment. And then slowly you'll start to back out and slide your legs all the way forward. So we're gonna set up for cow face, and if you know and are familiar with cow face, you can take your time getting into it. So you'll start with the right leg over and really pull that over. If your hips are feeling really snug and your left knee is at all really sensitive, then you'll stay here and just fold yourself forward. If your knees feel really happy and healthy, then you'll simply bend at the left knee, and so then the left heel will come on the outside of the right hip. And for just a moment here, make sure your heels are wide so you're not sitting on them. And I'm gonna turn and face you. I'm a big fan of kind of hooking at my ankles. And eventually the knees will really stack right on top of each other. But if the outsides of your hips are a little tight, then that can be a little challenging. So I'm a fan of the hook method and then fold forward. So we'll be here for a few moments. You can either keep the legs straight, you can hook or not hook, right, with the wrists, but do yourself the service of folding forward and coming back to your breath. Notice the space, notice what you create, and give this time to yourself. Just finishing out your final minute here. Slowly begin to lift your chest and back your way out. Lean back and uncross your legs. Take your time, right? You're in position for a while, so you may need to take it slow. And then you'll just switch sides. So left leg comes over, take your left heel towards your right, and then right knee will bend and right heel comes on the outside of your left hip. So kind of wiggle yourself in a little bit. Sometimes it's nice to come up forward onto the knees and then open up your feet wide and then press your hips back. So you can play with a few different entrances, and then when you're ready, fold yourself forward. The longer you stay, the more your body will start to open. So stay for a few more breaths here. You're just finishing out your final minute. And then nice and slow, you'll back your way up. Come sitting up nice and tall and lean back to uncross at your feet. You'll slide your legs out nice and long and come laying on your back. Lay all the way back and reach your arms overhead. Stretch your fingers and your toes in opposite directions. And then take your right hand to the right corner of your mat. Your head and shoulders will follow as well as your left hand. Keep your hips in the center of your mat and take your right foot to the right corner. And then your left foot will follow. It can either follow right next to, or you might even want to slide it on top of your right ankle. You can use your right hand and just give your left wrist a little bit of a tug to deepen the stretch on the left side of your body. And then slowly settle in and relax on your mat. Slowly take your time, uncross at your feet and bring both feet back through center, and the same with your arms. Left and then right come through center. Use your exhale and let it settle, and then on your next inhale, reach your fingers and your toes in opposite directions. Get really, really long again, and this time left hand to the left corner of your mat, right hand follows. Head and shoulders will go with you, but keep your hips in the center of your mat. Left foot to the left edge of your mat, right foot follows either at a cross or just right by its side. Maybe a little pull of the right wrist to increase the sensation down the right side. Once you find your sweet spot with more or less intensity, settle in. Inhale gently, bring your right hand and then left back through center. Make sure your head and shoulders follow. Right foot and then left foot. Take one more big breath in. Reach your fingers and your toes in opposite directions. And on your exhale, release your arms by your side. Inhale, bend deeply into your knees and open up your knees and your feet about mat width distance apart. Keep your feet where they are and simply let your knees fall off towards the right. So you might stay right here and this might feel like enough. If you want to take it one step further, you'll take your right foot and place it on top of the outside of your left quad and just let the weight of gravity kind of pull this down. And then you'll goalpost your elbows and look over your left shoulder. So just a really gentle twist here at the end of your practice. So make sure you take your left chin towards your shoulder, towards your left shoulder, so you get that nice cervical to lumbar twist, and settle in for a few breaths here. Slowly uncross your right foot from your left if you took it. Feet come back to mat width distance apart and let your knees fall off towards the left this time. Again, goalpost your elbows and look over your right shoulder. And if you want to add that extra layer, left foot comes on top of your right outer thigh and let the weight of gravity start to pull down. Come back to your breath. Slowly uncross your left foot from your right if you took it. Place both feet back wide, come back through center. You can give your knees, pull your knees into your chest to give your low back a little bit of a release. And then stretch your legs long. Take up a little bit of space, maybe mat width distance, maybe even wider if that feels good. Open up your arms and take these final few moments of your practice to relax back onto your mat. Just come back to noticing the quality of your breath. Maybe even notice the sensation of your belly pressing up against your shirt as you inhale and you exhale. Begin to notice how incredible you feel just by your attention and breath being used for you for 1 hour. For as long as you like, rest here. Give yourself this moment to really express gratitude to your body, to be thankful that you're alive, right? Maybe even just 3 things. Sometimes just that reminder of what you're grateful for can reset an entire day. So thank you all for joining me, whether it's live or whether it's later. It's always my privilege to guide you through practice. So I appreciate